Hello out there, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bolts Breakdown. You know this guy, Brian Burns, beat writer for TampaBayLightning.com. Hopefully you know me, Jay Recher, 620 WDAE. And Burnsy, before we get into their last game against the Buffalo Sabres, which I thought they played pretty well in, and then tonight's game against an old rival, the Pittsburgh Penguins, we got to talk about the breaking news that I just heard actually driving in today. We don't have this confirmed yet, so we can't confirm it. But we can talk about the reports that we hear that Andrei Vasilevskiy, and we heard it from Darren Dreger. We've heard a little bit from Joe Smith from The Athletic, talking about a possible lower body injury to Andrei Vasilevskiy, a possible foot injury. Dreger reported that it was a broken foot. We can't speculate on it yet because we don't have the full results and we don't have the full announcement yet from the Tampa Bay Lightning, but we do know that they've just made a roster move.
Yeah, they just recalled Eddie Pasquale from their AHL team in Syracuse, and he's kind of a veteran guy in this league. Has played for in the Islanders organization for a little bit. Has done really well down in Syracuse. They had a little goalie tandem there with Connor Ingram. So yeah, obviously something's going on if you're bringing up a goalie right now at this point of the season. There's a reason for that. So not really the news that you want to hear at this point of the season, especially to one of your guys who's played so well at the beginning of the season. Looked like he picked up right where he left off last year. Was certainly throwing himself into that Vezina conversation again this year. So you just hope it's something that maybe it's not quite as severe as what's being reported out there currently.
Yeah, and this is something and I know I'm trying to take some of the questions from people that I've seen either on Twitter or on Facebook so far. He didn't even play the last game against the Sabres. So something like this, and I didn't hear anything about it. I'm not sure if you did either. I don't know if it happened at practice, if it happened on the road somewhere. You haven't heard any inkling of this until this morning, right?
Yeah, I haven't been on the road with the team, so don't know if something happened during one of the practices while they've been on this road trip. Certainly didn't seem like anything happened in his last start, although he wasn't as sharp as he probably would have liked to have been. But nothing that I could see from that Ottawa game. It was his last start Saturday here at Amalie Arena. So, yeah, we'll just wait to hear, more from the team. Hopefully we'll get some kind of confirmation. I know the team's getting ready to have a morning skate in Pittsburgh, so I'd assume, about that time we'll start to hear something. Maybe John Cooper will give us a little bit of a heads up on what's going on there.
And this is a big reason why you got to follow us on Twitter as well. All that up-to-date news. Make sure you follow Brian at BBurnsNHL. Follow the team at TV Lightning. You can follow me at JRetcher. Follow the station at 620 WDAE for all the best Bolts coverage. So the more we hear about the whole Vasilevskiy situation, we will definitely let you know. We will touch on that throughout the show right here on Bolts Breakdown. Before we get into tonight's game against the rivals, right? Rivals?
Yeah.
They're one of the rivals for the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Let's look back at the last game the other night, Tuesday night against the Sabres up in Buffalo. And you know what, Burnsy? They didn't win the game on the scoreboard, but I tell you what, if it wasn't for Carter Hutton, the Lightning win this game. They outshot them. I think it was 14-2 in the second period, 12-2, 14. The even numbers are getting to me today.
It was definitely 2 for Buffalo.
It was definitely 2 for Buffalo. We know that. And then also in that third period, they put a real nice charge at the end. Kucherov hit not one but 2 posts. A really nice setup by Stamkos on that last one. What are you going to do? Sometimes in the sport of hockey, that's what you just got to do. You got to tip your hat to the other team and you say, hey, the goalie was the better man tonight. And that's what happened, I think, against the Sabres.
Yeah, the hockey gods weren't with the Lightning in that game.
That's true.
In Buffalo. And, I thought Carter Hutton was really good. I want to give some credit to Buffalo as well, the team in front of them. I thought they did a really good job of it. Seemed like every time the Lightning had a really good chance to score, they had a partially open net. Hutton was a little bit out of position. It was a rebound or a second chance opportunity. There was a Lightning player there to kind of pounce on it. It seemed like they were getting their stick interrupted or their stick lifted.
Good defense.
Yeah, just kind of a desperation defense from Buffalo where they were able to just make a play at the last second to thwart a really good Lightning scoring opportunity. Even if it was just as much as they're just getting the slightest little touch on the shot to send it wide. They just did a really good job of desperation defending. When there was an opportunity for the Lightning to score there. And I think that, add that to what Carter Hutton was able to do in goal, and it was just a really tough night for the Lightning as far as trying to score goals. And like you said, I thought they played pretty well. I thought their defensive game was really good. They limited them, like you said, to 2 shots in the second period, only 19 shots. For the game, it's the lowest amount of shots they've allowed this year. You have to go all the way back to 2 seasons ago before they've allowed less shots than that 16 against Anaheim, in case anybody out there is wondering.
This guy's got the
I had
numbers
to
for
write that
days.
for the game notes, so
Of course.
that one was just stuck in my head. But
Yeah, if you ever get the game notes, Brian's the one that quick sidebar, how tedious is that to look up? I mean, it's got to be difficult because you got to.
you get into a groove during the into the season because you kind of learn to look for the same things, and sometimes you're writing some of the same stuff. You're just updating it based on the latest game. But yeah, I mean, they take like 4 or 5 hours to do each game.
Man.
And, you got to go through and update like what each guy did in the last game, like what the trends are. How many goals. This was when I found out when Steven Stamkos was on a little bit of a goal kick there. He's still on it, but he hasn't scored in the last couple. But he'd scored like 5 or so since October 30th. And if you look, that's like right up there amongst the leaders in the NHL for October 30th. So it's just trying to find little different things like that just show trends and, maybe can, help writers or other journalists out there figure out what their storylines are going to be. That's what the game notes are basically used for.
This is the kind of information you get here on Bolts Breakdown. Not just breaking news or analyzing recent injuries, but you get new facts and new stats that you're not going to hear. So good stuff here from Bryan Burns here on Bolts Breakdown. As always here on Bolts Breakdown, let us know where you're watching Bolts Breakdown from. Put it at the bottom of the screen there. Let us know where you're watching from anywhere, not just in the country, but all over the world. And make sure you share this on your Facebook. Put shared on there, and we'll give you a shout out. That's for sure. And we'll also take some questions. Just put them there at the bottom of the screen, and we'll do our best to shout you out. Let's look forward to tonight's game, Burnsy, against the Penguins in Pittsburgh. And from what I'm hearing, it looks like Sidney Crosby is dealing with an upper body injury. So we might be without 2 of the best players in the entire NHL, and Andrei Vasilevskiy, if the reports are true, and Sidney Crosby with that upper body injury. No news on that, right? Have you heard anything
I haven't
on
heard
Crosby?
anything on Crosby. Again, that's probably one of those things. They're about to do their morning skate right now in Pittsburgh. That's usually like home team 10:30, road team 11:30 for morning skate. So I would assume pretty soon after their skate, we'll start getting some reports on Twitter from some of their beat writers about what's going on with Crosby tonight.
All right, your 3 keys to victory tonight for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Yeah,
I mean, if you look, and again, we don't know if Crosby's in or out tonight, but if you look at Pittsburgh, they've kind of been down for a little bit here. They've lost, they're 1-5-1 in their last 7 games. So for me, first key is just kind of kick the Penguins when they're down. You don't get too many opportunities against the Pittsburgh team where they're not playing that well, especially on their home ice. So when you have an opportunity to beat a team like that when they're not playing that well, you got to take advantage of it. Lightning haven't really played well in Pittsburgh. They did during this. It's interesting during the playoff series a couple seasons ago. They played well, but if you look at the regular season, they're only 1-11-1 going back to the 2010-11 season. So that's 1 win in 13 games. So that's not too good.
No,
so
definitely not.
Hopefully, with the Penguins being down,
change it up a little bit.
Yeah, you can kind of change up that mark a little bit. Number 2 for me is there's kind of a really good power play penalty kill matchup in this game that I think if the Lightning can win, it'll really help them. If you look at the Lightning power play, they have the second best road power play in the league, 39.1%. Incidentally, their home power play is last in the league, which I didn't really realize. No, the Lightning.
Oh, the Lightning.
So the Lightning have the second best power play on the road, the 31st power play at home. They're only like 2 of 24 opportunities.
Maybe a little bit of that overpassing.
Yeah,
maybe
it could be.
Bit.
Trying to create that pretty goal to get the fans really jacked up. Pittsburgh, meanwhile, their home penalty kill is first in the league. So you've got the second best road power play going up against the first home penalty kill in the league. So I think that's a really big matchup here. And if the Lightning can maybe take advantage of 1 or 2 of those power plays, get one in the back of the net, that could really be a big key for them going into this game. And then number 3 for me is just play with have another good sound defensive performance. I thought they played really well defensively against Buffalo. Obviously, we talked about limiting the number of shots that the Sabres were able to produce. They really didn't get too many grade A scoring chances. I thought the Lightning did a really good job of just tying them up and not letting them get those open looks. During this run that Pittsburgh's been on at home against the Lightning, of those, they've won 12 of their last 13. Of those 12, they've scored 4 goals in every one of those games.
Okay.
So for the Lightning, I think a big defensive performance will be key. If they can get that number down for Pittsburgh, get it below 4, I think that'll be a big key to them coming out of the Steel City with a victory.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. Even though the Pittsburgh is down, never an easy place to play. Let's get to some of your questions here. How did Vasi hurt his foot, Dan Gibson? We don't necessarily know. Jay, you seem out of it. I hope everything is okay. Nah, man, I'm good. Fabio.
Talk about it, man.
No, we want to talk about it. No, I'm good, man. I'm great. We're just waiting to hear from more of you guys. My 3 keys: don't waste the scoring chances, kill the penalties, and for one, don't start the game down by 1 or 2.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're for real. Garrett from Michigan. I'm going to go to the game in Detroit on December 4th. Go Bolts. That is awesome. Every time you can go see the Lightning play on the road, that's pretty cool. For sure. But yeah, my one guy to watch today has got to be Phil Kessel, or as my boy Ronnie D calls him, Lumpy. He just doesn't look like a guy that is a professional athlete. And you've seen him walking down like in the bowels of Amalie Arena. You're looking at this guy, he's like...
He looks like Zach Galifianakis.
He does. He looks like a used...
From Hangover.
He does. He looks like a guy that is a used car salesman. He doesn't look like a hockey player, but... He is one of the best goal scorers in the league in this generation. This guy just keeps scoring and scoring and scoring, and he's on like the perfect team because he doesn't have to worry so much about defense. He doesn't. If you look at his hits in his entire career, I looked it up. I think it was last year. In his entire career, he doesn't have as many hits combined as Ryan Callahan had. I think it was 2 years ago in 1 year.
Yeah.
He just doesn't hit people. I mean, this guy's between probably 8 and 18 hits a year. So he goes out there and he scores, and he's a guy that just always seems to find the back of the net against some of the best teams. Him and Patrick Hornqvist, I think those are the 2 guys. Those right-handed shots could give the Lightning some issues tonight. One of the things I wanted to ask you as well is how did you think Erik Cernak played in his debut the other night against Buffalo? I think he looked pretty solid.
Yeah, I thought he had a couple rough moments in the opening period, kind of a welcome to the NHL moment. Sam Reinhart gave him one of those. But after that,
happens.
Yeah, after that, I thought he played really well. And you look at the stat sheet, he finished with 5 hits. He was right up there amongst the leaders on the Lightning for hits, had 5. Took 3 shots. I thought he did a good job.
He's got a good shot.
Yeah, he got a really good shot. And you look at the end of that game when they had the man advantage with the goalie being pulled.
He was out there in the beginning, right?
He was out there. He was because they like that shot and they feel like he's a good chance to get that through on net. So they wanted that big shot out there with that 6-on-5 advantage. So I think that's a big moment for him. You put a young rookie playing his first game in the NHL and against in a crucial moment, a time when you're trying to tie the game late in a game. I thought that was a big moment to put him out there. And I thought he acquitted himself well. I thought, after he admitted after the game that he was really nervous in that first period. And I think being partnered with Ryan McDonough really helped him out. McDonough was really helped. He said McDonough helped talk to him throughout the game, was explaining different situations to him. And McDonough is kind of that player that's going to be, a leader for some of those young guys, and especially his defensive partner. He's going to be there to kind of just kind of help him along as the game's going on, and just anything that he sees in his veteran mind that he can pass on to the Cernak, that's just going to help Cernak that much more. But I thought in the second and the third periods he really settled in, showed his physicality. I mean, this guy, we said it before, he's got an NHL body. He's very physical. He looks the part right now, and really it's just about getting the experience and getting those games and the reps in the NHL. But I think the Lightning have a really good one here in Erik Cernak for the future.
The thing I like about Cernak is he seems to bring something to this team that they don't necessarily have. He's kind of a little bit of a wider body on that right side. Sergachev is playing, I don't want to say out of position because it's only one of 2 spots you could play on D, but he's playing on that right side with Coburn playing on the left. And then you have Strawman and Girardi, who are solid veteran right-handed shots, Burnsy, but they're not huge, big guys with big shots. Yeah. You're not going to confuse either one of those guys with a Shea Weber-type slap shot or a Dustin Byfuglien-type meanness. But watching that game with Cernak, to me, I think he is a key part of this team really taking it to the next step. And one thing that worries me about the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I mentioned this on my show on Lightning Power Play, is I'm afraid of their net presence on defense, where their inability to push guys out of the front of the net. You see that with the Islanders in the game with Josh Bailey. He scored 2 goals right from around the goal crease. You saw that in the game against...
one with Strawman right on his back. Did a spin and couldn't really push him out of the way.
Good point. And then Ottawa as well against the Senators. A lot of their goals, the wraparound goal, the goal from Mark Stone at the end there. A lot of those goals happen right around the goal mount. And to me, it's a little worrisome that the Lightning don't have a little bit of a bruiser in front of the net that can push guys out of the front of there. I think Erik Cernak is that guy. My question to you, Burnsy, is do you possibly see them moving one of their defensemen during the year to open up that spot for Cernak? Because to me, he gives them something that is not currently on this team.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one
because there's 3 unrestricted free agents. That's why I asked, because you have Coburn, you have Strawman, and you have Girardi. I don't think they would move Strawman, But I mean,
No, I don't think Strawman's
I
going
think
anywhere.
he's the guy that's most likely to re-sign. I think you agree with that after this year.
For sure.
But you look at Coburn and you look at Girardi. I know they're on the downside of their careers, but Girardi's a steady defenseman. And when you look at a guy like Coburn, he's a guy that, he played much better down the stretch last year. I think he's looked pretty good this year. He's even scored some goals this year as well. Yeah. I think that would be a nice coup for some other teams. Do you see a possibility of them moving any of those guys? Do you see that? Look into the crystal ball.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think with Coburn, I think when you look at the tail end of last regular season into the playoffs and what he's been able to do at the beginning of this year, I mean, you look at the middle of last season, he wasn't playing his best hockey, and you could probably say, after this season, he wasn't going to be back. But the way he's played at the end of last season, the playoffs going into this year, he's kind of had a little bit of a rejuvenation here. He's playing some really good hockey, and he's, for a third-pair defenseman, he's about as good as you can do right now for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that partnership with Mikhail Sergachev, what they've been able to do to steady that third pair to really give the Lightning three solid, really good pairs that they can count on in any situation. I think maybe Braden Coburn comes back again, next year or even a couple years. I think the way he's playing right now, he's kind of played himself into another contract for this team. Girardi, I'm not really sure about. You don't know what his plans are after this season if he wants to continue playing. But I think with Dan Girardi, you know what you're getting every single night. There's no surprises. You're getting a solid guy. You're getting a guy who's a leader on the ice, who's great in the locker room, who is willing to block shots. He's the NHL leader for all-time block shots. So he's not afraid to get in front of a puck. We saw last year in Detroit when he put his head in the way for a shot. And only missed 1 or 2 games.
Yeah, I know. How did he not miss more games than that?
Fortunately for him, he said it hit him in the fat of the neck, so it didn't go up a little bit higher where it could have done some real damage.
See everybody out there trying to get all muscular. You know what I mean? You get hit in the fat of the neck. That'll help you out.
So you know what you're getting with Dan Girardi. What I see probably with Chernak, if he is a guy that they want to count on as the season goes along and maybe have him for the playoffs. As a little bit of a difference maker or a different guy on the back end, I say send him back down to Syracuse, let him get the reps in at Syracuse, and then as that season's winding down, if you really want him back up here to be a little bit of a difference maker, then you bring him back up for the stretch run for the playoffs. You go with 8 defensemen on the roster, and if you insert them whenever you can, if that's what you want at that situation. But I don't know that there's a case where they're going to keep him up here and trade one of those unrestricted free agents because they like what they have in all 3 of those guys, and all 3 of them, they've bought into the system. They have their role in this team. They're performing that role well, and I don't know that you really want to disrupt that continuity.
What about another thing, and I know this could be blasphemy to some people, but we were talking about this on the show yesterday on 620 WDA, Ronnie D and myself. What do you think about acquiring a guy with some girth maybe up front then? A guy like Milan Lucic. What would it be like if you saw Milan Lucic in a Lightning uniform? I mean, he's a guy that Edmonton brought in to kind of protect Connor McDavid. His production has dipped last season, including this season. I mean, this is a guy that scored 20, 25 goals for the Bruins. I mean, this guy can really be a force. And I mentioned before, if the Lightning could have anything different about the team this year, it's a little more sandpaper, a little more grit for this team. Who would mess with Kucherov and Stamkos and Braden Point and Yanni Gourde if Milan Lucic was on this team on that 3rd or 4th line? I mean, that'd be pretty crazy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but, those guys don't really get messed with as it is right now. I don't know. It's a good thought, and you look at a guy like Tom Wilson and what he was able to do for the Caps last year, and you wonder, what could that guy do for the Lightning?
That's what I think, because I see that, and I see what happened to the Lightning team last year, and the one thing that worries me about this team, Bernsey, is, they're so good, they're so talented, but when the game slows down a little bit, and just like in basketball, it comes a half-court game, and you see less and less odd-man rushes in the playoffs because you see more defensive teams. Obviously, the better defensive teams usually the last one standing, so you're going to have to be able to be more creative, score more of those ugly goals, because the goaltenders are really good as well. And I think maybe a guy like Lucic could be a guy that kind of just rattles the system a little bit, and you don't have a situation last year, because as good as this Lightning team is, it's really Stanley Cup or bust. So you got to look at what happened last year and go, all right, well, is it just they're going to be better this year because those guys are a little bit older, or is it a little worrisome that they didn't really address the issue that they had of not being able to match that physical play from Washington in the Eastern Conference Final last year?
I think what they addressed was the defensive play. That's where they were deficient last year. I mean, obviously they scored more goals than any other team in the NHL, set a franchise record for goals. But defensively, they were right near the middle of the league, and they addressed that when they went out and they got Ryan McDonagh at the trade deadline. They brought in JT Miller, who was kind of a throw-in part of that deal, but he's ended up being a really valuable member of the forward group and someone that gives you a little bit something different from like the Stamkoses and the Kucherovs, like you were talking about. But I think having Ryan McDonagh and I think having JT Miller for a full season, I think that's where they've addressed some of those concerns. It'd be nice to get a guy like Tom Wilson or a Lucic or one of the, Reeves, somebody from Vegas, like a big guy who can throw his weight around and
just so he can't hit head.
Be an enforcer, yeah. But I don't know that really plays into the Lightning system. They want to be that fast, speed, skilled team, and I don't know that a player like that is going to be able to keep up and buy into that part of the system and be a valuable member with the way that the Lightning play. I just don't know that it's really in the cards for them there. It's really like what they want. I think, probably Cedric Paquette's going to be your main enforcer, your main guy who's going to thump his body weight around and be that guy that's looking for a fight, and he's not even really one of those types of players. He just does it when it's, the situation kind of calls for it. I think on the back end with Chernak, if you're able to get him into the lineup, he can maybe, I don't know that he's like I know he's physical. I don't know if he's one of those guys that's looking for a fight. He's not a Luke Witkowski.
Okay.
If you remember him. But that's a guy I would like to kind of have back on this team, is he was someone that was willing to stick up for a teammate and throw his weight around, and was really a great role player for this Lightning team, and they were sad to see him have to leave this organization. But I think maybe that's where it comes, just in the back end, if Chernak can be that type of player. And I don't know that he really is. We haven't seen enough of him to know if he's going to be that Witkowski type of defenseman. But, Wilson, Reeves, those guys, I just don't know that they really fit into what the Lightning want, their philosophy of how they want to play hockey.
I found it a little kind of curious that Stamkos was talking about Lucic after the whole Matthew Joseph thing, and he's like, he's really not a dirty player, and I was like, all right, well, I had to look it up a little bit, and I've seen him spear a couple of guys in the groin, and I get it. I know what you're saying. I just think that, now when you look at some of the better teams in the league, you're going to get some of that grit as well. And if you can find a guy that can do a little bit of both. Tom Wilson's not going to be known as a prolific goal scorer, but I think he scored in the teens last year.
Yeah,
and he was
able
to. Brad Marchand was a guy that was kind of a rat and wasn't a big goal scorer, but you can see the last couple of years. I mean, he could have been, he was arguably one of the best players in the top 5, top 10 guys in the league last year. So it's definitely a different kind of hockey now, and you know how it is. It's a kind of up and down. It's a copycat league. It's a skater's game, so we'll see. I think it'll be interesting to see if the Lightning get closer to the trade deadline, if they go out and try to acquire a piece.
I think it's a question they probably ask internally as well. I think it's something,
what can we do? Because I tell you what, they were talking about JT Miller at the trade deadline last year. Nobody mentioned Ryan McDonagh until the trade went through. So that was the thing. It's like, all right, they were going up to JT Miller, and they were like, oh, they're adding Ryan McDonagh. I'm like, they're adding Ryan McDonagh? That's a bigger piece than JT Miller. So you just never know, and I love that this Lightning organization, they make the moves if they have to make the moves.
I thought Ryan McDonagh, you really didn't get a sense. Obviously, he had to hold out a couple games when he came over because of the injury. And then, played really well, I thought, in the postseason. But you really didn't get a sense of what a Ryan McDonagh can do for you until Victor Hedman went down this last little spell.
Good point.
And once Ryan McDonagh was kind of thrust into that, okay, now you're our top guy, our big horse is out, you're going to be asked to eat some of those minutes, you're going to be put in more of those power play situations, you're going to be expected to be out there on the penalty kill. I thought he was phenomenal and really just kind of showed you everything that he can do. It was almost like Christmas morning, I feel like. I asked Cooper about this. Like, do you really get a sense of, like, what this guy can do for you with Hedman out? Because you knew what he could do a little bit. You've seen him on video. He's played well for you during the playoffs, opening the season. But now you really get the full picture of everything this guy can do for you with Hedman out and being that number one guy. And now with Hedman back, it's almost like you have two number one elite defensemen on your D core. You can throw Hedman out there with the first pair. You can throw McDonagh out there on the second pair with Strawman, who, by the way, practiced yesterday.
That's a good sign. We didn't mention that.
In tonight's,
that'd be great.
In tonight's game.
Who comes out then? Got to be Chernak, right?
Yeah, I would think probably Chernak in that situation.
Him out.
I mean, you've got your top six. As long as, Hedman, Girardi, McDonough, Strawman, Sergachev, Coburn, as long as those guys are healthy, I don't see any way they're not going to be in the lineup, barring any kind of, they have 3 or 4 just really poor games where they can't get it together, and, maybe sitting on the bench for a game or two will give them a little change of scenery. But, hopefully they can get Strawman back, but I really like what Ryan McDonough was able to do, and you really get a sense of everything that he can do with this team and why they acquired him last year at the trade deadline. And you almost wonder, why could they not get that guy at the beginning of the season so he could have a whole year to show you what he can do and then just be that much better once the playoffs come through. And maybe that's the difference. Maybe that's what helps you get through that Game 7 against Washington.
As he scored some big goals in the past as well for the Rangers, even though he's not like a huge offensive force. He's had some big goals as well. I remember a goal against, I think it was Washington when the Rangers beat them a couple years ago. He scored a goal in overtime to give them the win. So he has the flair for the dramatic as well. And also, the other thing, too, when you're looking at this team and with Ryan McDonough and Dan Girardi, the leadership. They come over. I mean, when you're the captain, we mentioned this about Callahan, too. When you're a captain of a team like the Rangers, they don't just give that seat lightly. They don't even have a captain this year. So they have a bunch of assistant captains. But when you have a guy like Ryan McDonough as the captain, you have a guy like Dan Girardi that's been an assistant captain, and those guys aren't even wearing letters all the time. Maybe with injuries, they'll go in and out. But when you have guys in your locker room that were captains in other teams, especially an old team like that, I mean, that means a lot for your locker room because the leadership core just doesn't stop with Stammer and Callie or Palat. It goes up and down the line.
I mean, think back to that 2013-14 Rangers team. What was that locker room like? Like how many great leaders did they have in that locker room that are now on the Lightning? Back then they had Callahan, Girardi,
McDonough.
Was Boyle was on that team.
Strawman,
McDonough. All these guys have come over to the Lightning and have provided this unbelievable leadership in the locker room and have been great team guys. So you look back at that Rangers team and you think how did they ever lose? They had so much great locker room presence.
I know.
With so many really good guys, and it's
and a good goalie too.
Every single one that comes over to the Lightning has these amazing leadership qualities, great teammates, great people in the locker room, funny guys, know how to keep a team loose, know how to keep a team focused when the moment calls for it. Keep sending them over because
Matt Zuccarello, you're next.
Next in the pipeline because they've been sending over their Lightning have been able to get some really good, outstanding players and people from the Rangers organization.
Without a doubt. Bryan Burns, beat writer for Tampa Bay Lightning.com. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at @BBurnsNHL. You can follow the team at TB Lightning. Remember to go to TampaBayLightning.com for the best news and notes, especially with the latest on the Vasilevskiy injury. Again, nothing concrete, set in stone yet, but what we're hearing a bunch of different reports saying he's got a lower body injury. It looks like a foot. Darren Drager reported that it was going to be a broken foot. He was going to be out for a while, or a fracture in his foot, and he was going to be out for a while, and that was confirmed by Joe Smith. So we got to quote our sources here. We still haven't heard anything definitive from the Lightning, but as Burnsy said, usually after morning skate, we'll know more, and that's about 11:30 Eastern time. That's when it starts. So you figure a little bit afternoon, we should have an idea of what the deal is with Vasilevskiy. Burnsy will have it on his Twitter without a doubt, so make sure you go check him out, @BBurnsNHL. You can follow me at Recher. Go to follow the station at 620 WDAE. Go to 620WDAE.com for the best Bolts coverage. We got a huge programming announcement today at 3 p.m. So make sure, and I didn't even, Burnsy was asking. I can't even tell Burnsy. That's how big of an announcement this is. I don't know the whole thing, but I can't even tell my man Double B's over here. So
I'm pretty sure Jay's getting fired. He just doesn't want to tell me.
Could be. And if that's the case, this is the last episode of Bolts Breakdown, and it's been fun. We'll be back, Monday? They played Monday, right?
What we got Saturday,
and then Monday. So
I'll be on the road, so we might be doing a little home road thing going on with the
man, we'll do the home and road thing because that works so well. As long as we're not in my house in New York, that works fine. Because that was the worst thing ever. I listened back to it the other day. We had 5,000 views, and the whole thing was like
it sounded like you were on the subway going. You were the subway conductor,
next stop, Ronkonkoma. Next stop, Ronkonkoma. So make sure you follow us. 620 WDAE today at 3 o'clock. Huge announcement. The game tonight back on Fox Sports Sun, and then also up the dial on our sister station 970 WFLA. All right, I got to roll. I got to get ready for the big announcement. Burnsy's got to start packing because he's heading on the road, Friday? Tomorrow?
Yeah, I leave tomorrow morning.
This
meet
guy.
up with the team in Philly.
He's a man of the people, a man of the word. Make sure you
It's the
follow
dad's
him.
trip. Dad's coming in tomorrow, so
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Burnsy is going to use that as an excuse to find the nicest microbrewery anywhere.
you know, there's a really good one in Philly
I
called
was gonna
Tired Hands. I've been to before, but
See?
it's like 30 minutes outside of the city.
Oh,
I don't
come
think I'm
on.
gonna have time to get out.
If anybody can, if there's a will, there's a way. Burnsy will do it for you. That's Brian. I'm Jay. We'll see you guys next time right here on Bolts Breakdown.